Hello and welcome to the Thriller Zone. I'm your host, David Temple. This podcast gives you entree into the best thriller writers in the world. And if it's movies, TV shows, soon-to-be actors and creators and directors, this show talks about it. On today's show, we're going to be talking with one of my favorite guests, Tori Eldridge. Her book is Dance Among the Flames. Now, the book is riveting. It's a slight departure for her. It's mystical. It's got horror. It's a straight-ahead thriller, and you're going to love it. If you'd like to win a copy of the book, stay tuned to the end of the show, where all you have to do is send us an email to thethrillerzone@gmail.com. Tell us why you'd like to win a book. We'll draw from a hat, and you'll win. So, without any further ado, and a great big happy birthday to Tori Eldridge, let's get into the Thriller Zone. Ha 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 ha!
Well, good morning.
Good morning. Look who it is.
It's good to see you again, my friend.
It is so good to see you, my little Miss Sunshine. Man, you are always are you always this upbeat and delightful?
It's sort of I don't know. I think most people would say yes. My youngest son would say no. He always has a completely different perception of me.
Well, let's break that down for a second. How old is he?
30.
Okay, you shot that. You shot my theory. Okay. Maybe he's just disgruntled. Who knows?
Yeah. Either that or he sees the angst, It's like, I don't know.
Maybe a little bit of angst is okay, as long as it doesn't overtake you, right?
Right, exactly. This is so fun. This is my birthday, by the way.
I know. Happy birthday. I was going to sing to you.
Oh, you should.
Okay,
so
well.
This is just crazy because I've had an article and 2 other podcasts post today. I'm like, did y'all call each other and say, hey, it's Tori's birthday. Let's just dump everything on the internet today.
I wish I had my special effects at the ready, but I'll add it later. So here. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Tori.
Oh my God.
Happy birthday to you.
If you show up in a white dress, I'm just going to die. That was hilarious.
Probably because of the legs. Hey, well, you got to be sung to on your birthday. Come on, that's just the right thing to do.
That's right. You're the first person to sing to me on my birthday. This is very fun.
Oh, I love being the first at anything. That is so cool. Not even Tony. Tony didn't wake up and say, ta-da.
He didn't sing.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
He did the ta-da. He didn't do the singing part.
Okay. I'm not going to make any judgment on his singing voice. He's kind of a chill, laid-back guy. Maybe he doesn't have singing in him. I don't know. Did I ever tell you this? Here's a little unknown fact. I went to college on a singing scholarship.
Did you now?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, what kind of singing did you like to do?
Well, that's a loaded question because it's what singing did I do versus what singing do I like to do. I like Sinatra classics, crooner music.
Yeah.
So I kind of grew up digging that. But I grew up, I won't say the affiliation because that's a whole other conversation we can have off mic, but I grew up singing gospel music.
Oh, see, yeah. I went to Northwestern as a theater major.
Right.
And before then, I had studied singing with an opera teacher. And so she wanted to train me for opera. But I was like, I was like this jazz dancer and everything. And I was like, I don't want to sing opera. I don't want to do opera, but that's where my training was. So it was classically trained. So when I went to Broadway, instead of belting, I had this really high soprano voice. It was very peculiar.
I'm going to say this, Tori, because we're good enough friends. And I'm not BSing you. I know that if you set your mind to it, because this is kind of the way I've learned about you, you could become an opera singer. You could. You would just you'd go, oh, wait a minute. I do want to do that. And bam, you do it.
I appreciate that. I maybe could have but I couldn't now. I got to say, I've lost a lot of my range
Yeah.
and my strength. Yeah, I probably lost an octave off the top, you know.
Oh,
Yeah, I know. Well, it's a muscle like anything else. It's just like training in martial arts.
sure.
I've stopped actively training. I've lost a few things here and there. So between age and not exercising whatever that muscle is, whether it's your voice or what have you, it does make a difference.
Here's the
We have
good
to make
news.
choices in this world, what we spend our time on.
That is excellent. And good news is beauty has not missed a beat.
Aw, thanks.
Yeah. In case you didn't know, I'm a huge fan. I guess you got that by now.
Aw.
Yeah.
Well, back at you. I love
Well,
your show. Your show
thank
is
you.
fantastic.
Thank you. I'm having so much fun. Every single day, I'm like, I get to do this. I love it.
It shows.
Yeah.
It shows in everything. I always get such a kick out of all your posts and your videos.
Okay. First of all, you're drinking. Wait, let me see if I can pull it in mystically, magically. It's tea. I know that. It's going to be, jasmine was the first thing that popped into my head, but I'm thinking a green oolong or oolong and.
All
Maybe.
very good choices. I started with jasmine green, and this is now mint. And I'll tell you why, because it's 11 in the morning right now.
Yes.
And I woke up at 3 in the morning.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm in promo mode. I had all these things on my mind. I woke up at 3 and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to get up and work. So that's when I started drinking tea. So when it got time to prepare for this podcast, I was like, I need to chill. I just need to no more caffeine. A little peppermint be nice. So that's why I'm drinking that.
Yeah, well, good for you. I'm drinking Writer's Block Coffee, who is a new sponsor, and I know that you're not a big of a coffee drinker, but anybody who's watched the show noticed that I've gone from a little tiny cup to the big one because I love this coffee.
I love the name, Writer's Block Coffee. Gotta
cool.
love that.
Yeah, Ben and a gang over there just hooks me up. All right, we're going to talk about this gorgeous. Look at that. Dance Among the Flames. Not only is that a beautiful cover, which I'm a geek for, but what a cool title.
Thank you.
And a magnificent heroine, which we'll talk to. We're going to get to that. We got all kinds. Plus on top of that, I got 2 more copies that I'm going to give away later in the show. Yeah.
Thank you, Running Wild Press.
Yes,
I was nice surprise.
Isn't that sweet? I had to do a little research on them today, and I'm like, they're a great little boutique publishing house that has a gaggle of talented people at the helm and putting out some great books.
Yeah.
How did you
find
find them?
Because their mission is to print books that don't fit neatly into a box. And boy, oh boy, is that my book.
Don't get me started. This is completely. No, we'll come back to it. Okay, because it's so much different than Lily Wong. Speaking of which, last time we spoke, we were hanging out with Lily Wong in the Ninja Betrayed. Now, Lily quickly became one of my favorite characters, and Lily was running around Hong Kong, drinking tea, kicking ass, navigating love and corporate intrigue and murderous triads. I know, and we'll cover this later. I know you're going back to her. You haven't given up on her.
I could never give up on Lily.
Okay, good.
Who could give up on Lily?
No, you can't give up on Lily Wong. Okay. But I do want to know, just give us, a little background as to what you've been up to besides writing this, which we're going to get to. What's been taking your time? I'm trying to remember the last time we spoke.
Goodness, it was a while. Well, I just had a short story come out in an anthology. The Crime Hits Home anthology. That's the Mystery Writers of America, their 2022 anthology. And the short story is called Missing on Kauai. And as I was writing this short story, now this happens to me a lot. This happened to me with Lily Wong. The whole Lily Wong series was inspired by a short story. Dance Among the Flames was inspired by a screenplay, a dystopian thriller that I wrote and had to put away for a few years because it hit way too close to the pandemic and conspiracy theories and all this kind of craziness. That came from a short story. So, not surprisingly, while I was writing Missing on Kauai, I was diving for the first time into my native Hawaiian heritage. And I found myself laying out a novel and a whole new family with this whole lineage and this whole thing. And I went, oh my gosh, I've done it again. I called up my agent and I said, I'm writing a short story and I think I'm laying out a novel. And I told her, and she was like, you have to write this. So that's what I'm writing right now. I'm a little over halfway done with it. So working on that.
Folks, for those of you who are joining the show maybe for the first time, this is the gal who gave me the inspiration that you should never throw away or disregard your short stories. I learned that from you. Because oftentimes we'll think, oh, let's just take a little idea that's been percolating from somewhere and just bang it out and see what happens. Short could be, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000. But you never know. And
or 4,000, 1,000.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it could be real short.
Exactly. And so I had an idea. I don't want to make this about me, but I scratched out an idea one day with a buddy of mine sitting in LA on my second tour of duty about just this idea of I put it on a cocktail napkin. And 20 years later, I made it into a film. So my point to you, is never toss away those ideas. Keep those ideas in a treasured notebook and make that. I'm a big fan of making a notebook. I call it a treasure, leather bound or substantial, so that you know that this is this little fountain of creativity. But my real big point is, don't toss those away. And I picked this up from you because you just never know, right?
Yeah, it's very true. I still have, I have another novel that's completely laid out and a quarter written that I am dying to get back to, and I will at some point. But it's like certain things have to be done in a particular time, so it's waiting for me.
Yeah. Okay, real quick note. My producer tells me October 1st of last year. Doesn't seem like it's been that long.
Oh, yeah.
That's when we
it's
were
crazy. It wasn't that long. I mean, since then, to have an anthology and now come out with another book, for me, I don't know. There are some authors who come out with multiple books in a year, but this is a new one for me. Yeah. I thought it was, speedy to come out with a book a year. So this is something.
Who was I talking to recently? And excuse me while I, the gray matter isn't exactly what it used to be. Or as they say, the old gray mare isn't what she used to be. But it could have been Jeffrey Deaver. We were talking about just how you have to stay on top. You have to make notes and you have to keep those things humming along because with time and perhaps our shortening attention spans, you don't know when that flow of ideas is going to come. You don't know if just a passing thought, Tori, might that could be a cool idea. And sometimes the judgment voice will go, that's nothing. Oh. But you never know when that might launch into a Serafina, or a Lily Wong. So
yeah.
I did want to ask this, and I know you're not doing, for those listeners who are joining perhaps for the first time, Tori's she's just friggin' ninja master. On her website, if you go to her website, right at the home, there she is holding I'm going to massacre the name of this, but that blade is called a
ninja toe.
Ninja toe. Yeah, I should have known that.
You were probably going to say a katana. A ninja toe is a straight edge blade, whereas a katana has a slight slope. Yeah.
Thank you for making me look good. So you've, for all practical purposes, kind of given that up. Although I know you still work out because you're in fantastic shape, and that doesn't just happen overnight,
Well, I appreciate that. No, I'm an immersive sort of person. I have to do things all in, and that's the way I did, the performing when I was doing Broadway and television and film and all that, and that's the way I did the martial arts, and that's the way I do writing. So when I made this shift, which was about 10 years ago, to write full time, that didn't matter that I wasn't getting paid, right? I just made the commitment to write full time. And so I had to, in my mind, I stopped training, I stopped teaching. I used to travel for martial arts. Now instead I travel, for writing and conferences and things.
You bring up a good point. I want to make a note to mention this, is that sometimes, and this is the way I have lived my life, and I think you've lived your life this way too, because I've watched you from afar for so long. No, some people call it stalking. Honey, it's not stalking.
I was going to ask, but
It's this. I remember as a child, I always wanted to be in radio, and I'm like, I'm just going to practice. I'll go into a room and I'll just practice, and I'll, and when I landed that first radio job, I'm like, somebody's paying me for this. I would do this for free. And here's my point. A lot of times when we tap into that passion point of ours where we go, this is really what I am designed to do, and we're not getting paid in the process, I challenge people, don't worry about it. Let it ride. Do the thing that you love. Chase the thing you love. Nurture it, hold it, respect it, honor it. And if it is to be, as I have a belief that if the seed is planted in you, then that is a manifestation of its own self, that it will be. But that's a whole other conversation. But chase that dream. You'd agree with that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, because especially in writing, well, anything, but, especially in writing, you really have to enjoy the process, and you have to find a way to let that be its own reward, because who knows? It's such a long game. It could take years and years and years and decades, just to hear back from a submission, let alone get a book deal, let alone get a bestsellers list, let alone blah, blah, blah. And all these things that may never happen, or could happen, or just could take a very long time. And so, I don't want to waste a day. Right. I don't want to waste an hour. So instead, I try very hard. Sometimes I'm more successful at it than other times, but I try very hard to take pleasure and gratification out of the process, even if that process is a torment and anxiety-ridden stress. I still try and, acknowledge that I'm doing what I want to do, what I've set out to do, even if it's a hard day, even if it's a struggle, so that it becomes its own reward. And then everything else is just icing on the cake. And it helps to not worry about it so much.
And does worrying really gain us anything?
No. Concern is, intelligent. Mm-hmm. Worry, I really try and avoid that word and that concept. When I get to a point where there's something that's really, trying to worry me, then I remind myself that I'm going to waste all of this time in feeling horrible and this negative state of stress for nothing.
Yeah.
Or if the thing that I'm concerned about actually does happen, I remind myself that I will have more than enough time to suffer them. I don't need to start early,
Yeah. Two things popped into my head. One, I shared this with Peter Ferris, I think, on the show the other day. I said something. I was listening to an album, Tom Petty, one of my favorites. It's called Wildflowers. And he said, there's a line in there. Most of what I worry about doesn't happen anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
And I live by that. The other, there's an acronym called a FEAR called false evidence appearing real. That's one of the things I've held forever. False evidence that appears real. So when you worry about something, you're kind of capitalizing and spending cosmic, metaphysical, mechanical energy on something that really is just a passing thought. And if you would let it go and go, this is the way I want to look at it. If I am going to spend an amount of time on anything, and I have a choice between being positive or negative, and you're going to do one or the other, it's 50-50. Why not just choose the positive, right?
I really try and live in a place of neutrality where I'm not really kind of labeling things as good or bad. And that helps with me. That helps a lot. I do tend to spin out of control with obsessive thought. And so I do a lot of mind tricking to get myself out of those loops. But sometimes it's harder than others. But I will make the distinction between fear and concern, because, concern is real. And fear is real too. There are, some things that you really need to be afraid of. But, when I make the difference between am I being concerned and am I worried, it tends to be in my mind how I react to that. So, for instance, I woke up at 3 o'clock this morning because I had something on my mind and I knew that I wasn't going to let it go. So I got up, I went to work. I wrote out this email. I, did this outreach. I laid it up. I didn't mail it because it was so darn early, but I got it set up, and then I started writing my book. I started, doing all that. So I had an early start to the day, and that was fine. And so my concern didn't turn into worry, didn't turn into obsessive fear. And so that was a good thing. It's nice when I can do that.
This is funny how this conversation has molded into something that I was going to ask anyway, and we haven't got to it, but I'm going to go ahead and morph it right now. And this is going to the same thing. I've now heard myself say this for the third time in the show. There are people listening to the show and joining from all around the world, because when I look at the metrics of the show, people are listening all over the planet, which is mind-blowing to me. This is coming from a guy who was working in radio, and usually the people listening to your show is in that city. But anyway, so I want to know what Tori Eldridge's mantra is for life. And you've kind of already said this, but if you were to step back one step further, and we're going to get to writing advice later, but everyone has some kind, people who are evolved as you, have some kind of a mantra by which they live. And what would you say? I've now babbled long enough to give you plenty of time to figure that one out.
Well, you mentioned this as well, and it's actually on my website. I don't even remember the exact way that I put it, but if you're going to make a choice, always choose the most empowering perspective.
It's right there on your, when in doubt, choose the most empowering perspective.
There you go. See, it was much more eloquent on the page.
Girl, it's eloquent any way you look at it. All right, I do want to ask this one personal question before we move on, because I want to know, how's Tony doing, and is there any new Denzel Washington equalizers in the work? I just have that one question.
No, Denzel, wait, I can't tell you. I don't know.
Okay.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
Fair enough.
I know. I can tell you this. He does have a big film, War Magician, in the works with Benedict Cumberbatch to star and co-produce. So, that's something. But, because of the pandemic, everybody's schedule gets pushed back. The star, the director, everything gets pushed back. So it'll be, it's still going to be a while before that thing, gets going, but that'll be exciting.
Isn't it funny? And for people who don't know Hollywood, how long it takes to get anything done. Isn't it?
Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. And writers out there, when, so many, right? Because, he has so many options on so many products. And I feel for these writers because they don't know, and they think, oh, it's going to happen so fast. And they don't realize, when you think of how long it takes to hear back from a publisher, an editor, right? It can, some writers don't realize that it can take months. They could get back within 1 month. They could get back within 9. Yeah. When it comes to producers in Hollywood, it's the same thing, but it's not just one person making a decision. Yeah. There's all these little domino thing, house of cards things. So yeah, it can take a very, very long time.
All right, deep breath. Dance among the flames. I'm going to put
all right, I'm going to say straight up.
Yeah.
No spoilers. So anything you ask, no spoilers. Okay. I'm just going to tell you that. Just you watch. I'm watching you.
Okay. I'll make it easy. It's a good book. All right, here's what I'm going to tell you what I liked. This will be fair because I'm not going to, I won't give anything away. First of all, you have a new protagonist, which we know, while you cross over in the world of mysticism and horror. Now, you may have dabbled in this before, but I was not aware of it. So if you have and I haven't noticed, then you can just smack me later. But my first burning question will be, what is this slight departure like? But hold that. Well, here's what I liked about Dance Among the Flames. You have yet again created an intriguing, powerful female protagonist, which I think there are I'm going on record here, folks, way too few in the world today. My mom was a hero. My sisters are heroes. I'm always champion for the girl hero. Okay. So now this time, Brazilian woman named Serafina. That's not a giveaway.
No.
Love that name by
Thank you.
Serafina. I can say that she rises, she starts in the slums and rises to have a magical power. Is that safe?
Yes, Serafina Olegario. Yeah, she rises from the slums of Bahia, Brazil, in the stilt shacks, that were built up in the water, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
And yeah, she had to come up through all sorts of, poverty and, abusive life and all of this stuff. And she's a single mother, and she is striving for power and control over her life. And it does inflame a quest for power, shall we say.
And can I use this word that is a type of magic that starts with a Q?
Quimbanda?
Okay, Quimbanda. Now, what in the wide world of magic is Quimbanda?
I fell in love with all this. This book was inspired by a screenplay I wrote in the 90s that ended up getting a semifinals nod for the Academy Nicole Fellowship. And when I was, working on that, I was working on kind of a failed screenplay that had been set in Brazil, and I had to kind of scrap that and really dig deeper. And so in my research, I was like, okay, what is it that really intrigues me about this country? And it ended up being this amazing religion. It is the Umbanda religion. That's the more benevolent side. And they call it candomblé in Bahia. And a similar kind of thing you might know as Santeria. But it comes from the African Yoruba, and the slaves that came over, they integrated it with the indigenous Brazilian Indians, their animism and their ancestral worship. And of course, that didn't go over well with the slave masters, the Portuguese slave masters. So they syncretized it to Catholicism. And so you have this incredibly unique mysticism, right? That has mediums where, in these rituals and ceremonies and dance and drumming, they can channel in deities and spirits so that the worshipers can interact, one-on-one, not through a go-between, a priest or a minister, but right there, right there, and get that. So I became so fascinated with this. And, as with many world religions, the core goodness is so similar. It's so similar. And so that's what's something that I really loved about Umbanda, were the empowering messages. Well, Quimbanda is sort of the dark end of that. And it used to be, I know, it used to be all these things were integrated in that religion, and in some ways still are. But there were also other people, worshipers, who were like, no, we want our own religion of Quimbanda. And then that became a thing. But I suppose the difference to me, because everything is perception, but when I look at Quimbanda, it feels more self-oriented, self-serving, self-working, right? More pragmatic. How to work my life now, which may or may not harm you, depending if you're in my way, that kind of a thing, So I found the whole thing to be tremendously delicious. And I ended up like I said, right, this was sparked in the 90s.
Yeah.
And that's when I wrote the first early precursor of this novel, finished a novel in the 90s. But then I set it away, and then I picked it up, oh gosh, maybe 10 and a half years ago. So this character, Serafino Olegario and Michael and Adriana and Giancarlo and all of these characters and all these things, they have been living with me in my brain, haunting me for decades.
I wish I had a trophy, because if I had a little play trophy right now, I would hold it up. I'll just hold this. This is my trophy. Here's your trophy for having the best character names of anyone I've read this month.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you always have. I'm never disappointed, and I always remember your character names. A lot of times especially in this thriller world, classic thriller world, it's Jacks and Dons and Franks and Bobs and Toms, and which is all great. I love them all. I like simple names.
Yeah, those punchy one-syllabic words,
Monosyllabic punchers, that's right.
Yeah.
But Serafina. So, I find myself
Adriana.
I want to dance. Serafina. Break into song. I'm going to stop doing that. But I love the fact that you did not disappoint, and I'm watching every single word now that you called me up right out on the carpet. But let's say it blends. There was a great line. Where did I? Yeah, here it is. It's on the top of your book.
Oh, then
Jonathan,
that won't be a spoiler.
Yeah. I figure I'm safe, right? We're here on the tippy top of it. Tori Eldridge mixes mysticism and horror with seduction and vengeance to conjure real magic. And this is coming from Jonathan Mayberry, New York Times bestselling author of V-Wars and Ink. So he's probably got a pretty good idea what he's talking about.
He's amazing. He's amazing. I'm going to give a shout out because he's coming out with his, Kragan? Shoot.
As in Release the Kragan? No, it's kidding.
No. It's epic. It's epic fantasy, high fantasy.
Let's take a short break, and we'll be back with more Tori Eldridge right after this. David Temple here, host of the podcast, The Thriller Zone, and author of several books. Oh, here's one. The Imposter. Oh, here's one. The Poser. Oh, here's another. Devourer. Yeah, I write books. I write books for a living. I spend my time at the keyboard creating worlds. I don't spend time at the website building world. You know why? I'm not a professional. If you want to put your best foot forward and play with the big boys, go to authorbytes.com. Here's why. Sign up for a 1-year contract, get 3 months free. Where can you get a deal like that? Just use the code TheThrillerZone. Sign up for a 1-year contract, get 3 months free. Let the professionals take care of what they do, which is building websites that are pretty, sexy, secure. They got updates. They got plugins. They take care of that. Just use the code TheThrillerZone. Sign up for a 1-year contract. Get 3 months free. AuthorBytes.com.
Hey everyone, I'm Tori Eldridge, author of the Lily Wong thriller series and Dance Among the Flames. And I'm here talking with the uber cool David Temple on the Thriller Zone.
And now back to the show.
Lisa Unger said something. She always attracts my attention because she's one of the sweetest gals I've ever met in my life. Met her at Thrillerfest. Same time I saw you. And she's talking about tautly written, mystical, action-packed, will take you on a wild, listen to this, folks, take you on a wild, thrilling ride through centuries and continents. Tori's at the top of her game, delivering an irresistibly sweeping adventure that will linger long after the gripping story ends.
I pretty well was screaming around my living room when that came in. Number one, I couldn't believe she even took the time to read it. She is so busy. She has so many things pulling at her time. I was just overjoyed that she would even read it. And then when that came in, I just, knocked me over with a feather. Yeah.
Isn't it amazing? Is it egotistical of us as authors to want such prolific other authors to draft such delightfully delicious, intriguing blurbs? Or is it truly, and I'm asking you straight up, Or is it a really great sales technique? I mean, it's kind of both, but what are your thoughts?
But I don't think it's egotistical. I think it's very wishful.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
because these are our heroes.
Right.
But it definitely is a tremendous sales
Sure.
technique. I mean, when I got the Publishers Weekly starred review, I mean, I was like, oh my God, I mean, that was like, so, things like that, or having F. Paul Wilson call it stunningly original. F. Paul Wilson,
Yeah.
so the fangirl in me is just going, oh my gosh, my hero just said, and so there's that validation, there's that sense of, oh, hopefully I did it right. And I got to tell you, with this particular book, wow, you talk about taking a risk. I am out there with Brazilian gods and sex and darkness. And I mean, I was thinking to myself, are they going to come with me at pitchforks? Are people going to be like going, I thought you were a nice person. I thought you were like this empowerment woman. What the heck, woman? So I was really relieved when these blurbs started coming in. I was like, oh, good. People are going, I'm so sorry, Tori. We tried to read it, but we had to stop.
I'm going to traverse a little thin line, and I'm going to take you with me, Tori, because you'll appreciate it. To the point that you just made, I have a couple of ideas in my head having to do with my past and the way I grew up as a PK, but I would love to take some of our listener reader friends on a transatlantic, I'm just using that because that's the first word popped into my head, journey on the religious world. And we'll just pick Southern Baptist out of the clear blue and travel down that road while bending it and twisting it on its ear, kind of like you did in this one.
Okay.
But to your point, wouldn't it be interesting? Do you think they'd come after me with pitchforks as well? Because like, you're ruining my religion. No, I'm not. I'm just writing a book.
Yeah, it could be interesting. Now, my father was raised Lutheran. In fact, his mother wanted him to be a preacher. Would it be a preacher, a minister? I'm not sure. Actually, I wasn't raised in Lutheranism, and then my mother was from Hawaii. And interestingly enough, she was raised Catholic. Although I never knew that because she didn't raise me Catholic and she didn't go to church and she didn't go to mass and all those things. So I'm not really sure what happened with that. But of course, Hawaiian religion is much closer to the indigenous Brazilian religion because it had animism, where you're finding spirits in inanimate objects and often nature and things. And of course, it was polytheistic. Many deities. And so it was, much more like that. And so growing up in Hawaii, although I wouldn't say I worshiped in that way, I respected my culture in that way. And it was a cultural thing in the way that many Brazilians who are Catholic still embrace the cultural influences of Umbanda. This spiritualism. I mean, the whole ceremonies and the rituals that happen during New Year's Eve and New Year's and Carnival and all these things are very integrated with that. I mean, they're saying prayers to Iemanjá and throwing offerings into the ocean. Well, Iemanjá is from Africa, that's a Yoruba deity brought over and integrated into, this amalgamation that became this wonderful religion of Umbanda.
You just made me think of something. I hope I don't mess this up. I think it's Mulan. So I'm visiting, my wife and I, Tammy and I are visiting our grandkids in Colorado Springs recently. And
I'm so envious.
Oh, so fun. And we're watching this movie. Is it Mulan?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Mulan?
Uh-huh.
Disney, maybe?
Yeah.
With The Rock as the main character? With all the tattoos on him, and she's this...
Oh, no, that's Moana?
Moana, thank you. Okay, I knew I was going to mess it up.
Okay, that's in Hawaii.
Okay.
Yeah.
The
god of Maui.
I love that. I love that movie. I watched it about 7 times. I love that movie.
Okay, my granddaughter is named for Moana. That movie,
What?
Moana. Yes, my son and my daughter-in-law, during their wedding ceremony, which was in Kauai, by the way, one of the fun things they did for all of us, the family and everything, was we went to this really neat kind of outdoor place, and they had this outdoor, movie on this trailer in the rain, I might add. And they were showing Moana, and they showed it because they loved that movie and they loved the adventurous quality of this character. And so they named their daughter Moana, and that's my granddaughter. And she is now almost 17 months, and she is in Shanghai, and I have not seen her, which is in person, which is why I said I'm so envious.
Well, and I realized that because the last time we talked in October, you couldn't go, and I think you had a photograph, but you couldn't go to travel to see her. And I remember that being such a frustration of yours.
Yeah. I tried to go to China. They wouldn't let me in. And now they won't let them out because, So.
And the reason I bring that movie up is because it borrows a lot of what you were just talking about. The way that the water was spiritual and I mean, everything about it was, I'm watching it, Tori, excuse my ignorance of geeking out on this, but I'm like, because I thought it's just a little kid's movie. But as I'm watching it, I'm like, there's a lot going on here that's really mystical, magical, spiritual, and really good. And for those folks who are listening going, I thought I was tuning into the Thriller Zone, not a Disney movie.
Now we're talking about a Disney movie called Moana.
But
yeah.
But it makes me think a little bit of this book, Dance Among the Flames, in its own fashion, in my quirky little mind, because of the mystical influences of it. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I've got a question for you, and this is burning through my head as I was preparing for this. And this is more along the business, because you're so good at the business side of this business that we're in. So given that you belong to, let's see, we got International Thriller Writers, Mystery Writers of America, Horror Writers Association, and Crime Writers of Color, and Sisters in Crime. First of all, I don't know what your dues are like, but that's got to be crazy. My question is, do you find strength and motivation by belonging to groups like these? And could you share how that helps your career?
Oh, absolutely. One of my favorite topics. Most of the time I'll say, find a community, join an association. You don't want to do this alone. Dance Among the Flames, that would never have been published, let alone 4 books published, without the help of the mentors that I met along the way. And that began with thriller writers. They were the first group that I first connected with through going to Thrillerfest. Even before then, there were a couple of other conferences that I went to, and I was able to build relationships with editors and agents who wouldn't become my editors and wouldn't become my agents. But because of, I think, the enthusiasm and the passion, they were inclined to help me. And we ended up building friendships that have lasted over the years. And many of them have not just given feedback, but have read updates and given feedback, have referred me to people who can help me. Who does that? I mean, I'm talking big 5 editors. Who has that kind of time?
Yeah.
But they did that for me. New York Times best-selling authors, all sorts of authors who took the time to give feedback and help and things like that. And so, yeah, it was huge. And what I always tell new authors is, get involved and start helping them. That's the first thing you want to do, because when you're aspiring, you don't, you're kind of needy and you want feedback on this and that and the other thing, but you don't really have anything to promote. But there are so many people in your organization that you can promote. And by becoming a good literary citizen, you get involved and you build relationships, and you go to their events and you watch their events and you learn things. And, and all of that helps you along the way. And so, once I discovered Thrillerfest, and then when Dance Among the Flames was the first novel that I ever completed. long before I even thought of Lily Wong.
Oh,
So,
wow.
so I joined Horror Writers Association first. Even though I felt bonded because I had been to Thriller Writers, I actually joined Horror Writers Association first. And then, then what happens is there are certain organizations you can join without having publications. And I believe Sisters in Crime is one of them. Oh, you left out MWA. I'm a member of Mystery Writers of America, but you can't join them without a contract, but some you can. And so if you can, I encourage you to. And become involved.
All right. And first of all, that is great, solid advice, which is going to follow right into our very next question. But I want to say this real quickly. And that is, when I went to Thrillerfest, which is where I met your husband, Tony, and saw you, and that was my very first one, 2019, I met and made more friends so quickly. That is a great byproduct of this. But you know what? I want to give encouragement to anyone who might be thinking about going to Thrillerfest this year in New York City, June 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, right around there. There you go, Kimberly, for your little plug. Not only did we meet KJ Howe and the executive director and had a wonderful time, but here's the thing, and this is my encouragement. I'm a really gregarious, outgoing guy. Nothing really bothers me and so forth, but I did find myself being a little tiny bit nervous about pitching a book at that speed dating thing. But when I walked away from it, and I've learned this more since we've launched this podcast, is that at the end of the day, these cats, all these people, they really want you to win. They want you to succeed because we're all in this together. And that's the single coolest thing I have learned about being in that world of Thrillerfest, thriller writers, mystery writers, is not only the encouragement, but everybody wants you to win. And there's not this competitive world like you think it would be. It's really an encouraging world. So
it's not like being a dancer on Broadway.
No.
Trust me.
No. Now, quick little side note, because I forgot to ask you this. I'm guessing that Serafina, she's coming back around again, like multiple times. Will we have two dueling? Will we have Lily Wong a series and Serafina all like this is for a while, right?
I don't know.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Can't say. Can't say. We're putting it out as a standalone.
Okay.
So, enjoy it as such.
Okay. Coy. All right. Before we head over to rapid fire questions, Tori, I have another topic I want to cover, and it's classic go-to for my prolific authors like yourself. If you were to provide one piece of golden advice for would-be writers, and you've kind of mentioned similar aspects, tangential aspects throughout, what's that great piece of advice?
Focus on the process. That really is the one that hones in. That'll get you through because it's a long haul.
Yeah, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Yeah, and really to have the encouragement. Would you agree with this? Have the encouragement that if that's really what you want, and you really are working hard every day, and you believe in yourself, that you just have to believe that it's going to happen. Because if you don't believe that, you're wasting your time.
Yeah, I think you have to have your brain, locked in on the possibility and the likelihood, Now, I will say I do work on it pretty much every day, but that doesn't mean that's the only way to work on it. I have friends who have full-time jobs who just ruminate.
Oh yeah.
And then they take a break for like a month in a year, and they write a book. Blows my mind. But I know somebody who's written like 7 books in this way. So there are a lot of ways to work, and it doesn't necessarily have to be every day.
Yeah, I would agree with that. You use the word ruminate, which is interesting because I use the word marinate. I'm always percolating, marinating on the idea constantly and just stirring the pot, knowing that when I then sit down and the world gets quieted, then I can really run with reckless abandon. Well, guess what time it is? It is rapid fire question time.
Oh no, this part always stresses me out.
Honey, we're friends. I would never put you in harm's way. All right. Number one, it's really easy. You suddenly find yourself in a dangerous situation, or perhaps it's something you're currently or never without. What tool of protection, what kind of weapon would you hope to have on your person? So whether you carry it now or have it on your person now, or you were in a dangerous situation and you went, man, I wish I had this one thing, what would it be?
A 6-foot staff.
Okay.
I do a lot of hiking, so it's not a big ask.
Yeah. And is it expandable so that you could keep it on your person and go and pull it out to 6? And
No. It's like a hiking stick, you know.
Okay.
But I'm a long weapon. That's my fave. That's
Okay.
my fave.
Okay.
You know,
got
plus, you know, you're not going to get arrested for a hiking stick.
Sir, we're going to have to take you in on the hiking stick. Okay, fair enough. Number 2, if you could, you're going to love this with Dances with Among the Flames. If you could manifest one secret magical power, what would it be and why?
Teleporting. Teleporting. That is the superpower I want, and I want it now because I want to go hug my grandbaby.
I want it now, damn it.
I want it now.
Okay, teleporting. I like it. All right, number 3. You've just been approached by Hollywood. Heck, your husband could have optioned Dance Among Flames already, and they want to turn it into a limited TV series. Who would play Serafina, and is there any role you'd like to play or to have in the production yourself?
Oh my gosh, I don't even know. I don't
Really?
even know. I haven't even allowed myself to go to that place. As far as would I want to play anything myself? No.
Okay.
You know, I'll let you in a little secret.
Right.
I got out of acting when half my face went paralyzed, and so I can't always count on it to do the right thing. I get a little quirky, you know, my face gets a little quirky sometimes. So I don't know, you know, even on a television screen, I don't know. I really want to be seeing myself.
Okay. The only reason I asked that is because the very first part of that is when I write, I always picture some kind of a movie star that I really like that I think would be cool for that role. So I thought maybe you had a Serafina type actress in mind, but that's cool.
I did not.
Yeah. Okay.
She existed completely in my mind.
Okay, cool. All right. Last question. If you were to become known for one single genre, I know this is the toughest one out there, among thriller, writer, horror, or even maybe self-help, which I personally believe, because of your background and super positive outlook on life, I could very easily see you writing one.
Already been there.
Okay. What would it be? What would it be and why? If you could only pick one, I know this was the hardest.
And I have
one.
to choose one of the ones you named. You know,
You could make up another one if you wanted to, but
Well, okay, it's going between thriller and horror. I'm going to say thriller because I think it's big enough to encompass all the others.
Yeah, thank you. I have always said that thriller doesn't just mean how fast is it going to happen. That's why this show, as you're going to see in 2.0, is going to expand. So it isn't it's the thriller zone, but to your point, it's like thriller is also mysteries or thriller or can be thrilling, and horror can be thrilling, and well, romance can be thrilling too, but I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of romance on the show.
Well, you know, when I think of a thriller, especially when I'm looking between mystery and thriller, because Lily Wong is a mystery thriller, you know, and family dynamics, you know, kind of a action thriller kind of a thing. But when I look at a thriller, your protagonist has to be in jeopardy.
Yes.
They have to be in danger, right? And so really, to me, that's the key. So if you're in a mystery where they aren't just solving the mystery and, you know, they're not in any danger of being hurt or killed or whatever, then that's straight up mystery. But if they are, then it becomes a thriller. Now, when you're looking at horror is almost always a thriller. Oh, yeah. Because horror at the heart of it is dread and fear. right? And of course, Dance Among the Flames is like saturated with that, right? And Thrill, in that, even though it has more of that literary historical fiction kind of denouement, as it, you get to know all these characters and into this culture, the last quarter of it is as action-packed thriller as anything I've ever written,
Yeah.
even more, as much as any of the Lily Wong books. So I think thriller is big enough to be the one to hang everything on.
Yeah, I would agree with that. All right, folks, the book is Dance Among Flames. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I have 2 other copies, brand new, crystal clear, not wrinkled or anything. And all you have to do is really easy. Yeah, there you go. Way to hug that book. All you have to do is write me here at the TZ. All you got to do is write thethhrillerzone@gmail.com. Provide one simple answer. It's this easy. Why would you like to get a copy of Tori's latest book? We're going to put your names in a hat and draw, and that's it.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck. So to learn more, folks, go to ToriEldridge.com. Follow her on Twitter as I do, stalker, etc. As I do at the same name. But boy, as expected, this has been fantastic.
So much fun. So much fun. And thanks for making my birthday so entertaining.
Yes.
It's been very special. And thanks for the birthday song. I appreciate it.
Yeah. I hope I don't regret that later when people go, wow, we didn't know you couldn't sing.
This particular birthday, I'm very conscious of the amazing people I have in my life. And, I would include you in that. I have some people who've just been tremendously generous and giving and just fabulous. And I'm a bit overwhelmed by that. I'm very aware of that in this particular birthday. I'm very thankful for it.
That's awesome. Well, your gratitude is your place of gratitude. And I think that's a lot of the reason we're all so drawn to you because of that. And we applaud you and we congratulate you. And this is going to be a fantastic book. And I'm going to end on this with a great big happy birthday once again.
Thank you. Mahalo.
Man, does not get much more fun than Tori Eldridge, does it? The book, Dance Among the Flames, and as I said earlier, and there at the end of the show, if you'd like to win your own copy, just simply write to thethhrillerzone@gmail.com. We'll draw a listener from a hat and announce it next week. Speaking of next week, can you believe it's been almost 1 year? I think I had her on, let's see, May Cobb was my very first guest back in June 17th of last year. Her new hit, My Summer Darlings, is going to put her into the stratosphere, I have a feeling. She was my very first guest. What's that? Nearly 70-some episodes. I'll never forget that day. We had just launched the show, and stay tuned next week for May Cobb and My Summer Darlings. It's going to be a great show. Want to say once again, thank you so much to my sponsors, Writer's Block Coffee, who provides delicious coffee, as you can see me constantly drinking it. Your first order, 15% off. And authorbytes.com. They're the guys who my website, David Temple Books, is based upon. You want a great website that makes you stand out from the rest? Sign up for a contract. Get 3 months free with a 1-year contract. All right. Stay tuned next week for May Cobb. We'll find out who wins copies of Tori Eldridge's Dance Among the Flames and a whole lot more. I'm your host, David Temple. Thank you so much for joining me and making us one of the fastest growing podcasts in America. And if you want to take 30 seconds and leave us a review at your favorite podcast channel, Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, you name it, we would greatly appreciate it. We'll see you next time. Take care.